So, by a show of hands, how many of you created something that you still use to this day? Now, how many of you buy handmade items? And how many of you buy manufactured items? Everyone's hand should be up. Now, I want you to think about which one you buy more of, handmade or manufactured. And I want you to ask yourself, which one do you prefer? Quality or quantity? My name is Taylor Joan, and I am an aspiring engineer. And in these 7 minutes, I hope to convince you that our hyper-specialized society is taking away from the future generations, or taking away the creativity of our future generations through the use of statistics, everyday examples, and my own personal experience. So these are factories in China that are creating a living hell for all living things in it. And this is hyper-specialization. It is a word that literally means extreme specialization. But in a Harvard Business Review article that was written about 6 years ago, it helps us have a better understanding of hyperspecialization nowadays. The term hyperspecialization now refers to work that used to be done by one person that is now divided into more specialized pieces done by multiple people. It refers to the manufacturing side of society, like the factories. In fact, here are the statistics for the amount of entrepreneur businesses from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from 1994 to 2015. An entrepreneur is someone who organizes and operates a business or businesses. These are people that take a risk by starting something that they believe people need in their life when they only have about an 18% chance of succeeding. Entrepreneurs keep the fire of creativity burning in our society. Now, in March of 1994, there were 569,419 entrepreneur establishments established. In March of 2015, there were 679,072 entrepreneur establishments established. Now, that is a 16% increase since 1994. Now, of course, there's been some dips and some ups, but we have managed to at least stay over the line. So you might be asking yourself, why are we a hyper-specialized society? What happened that we became such a hyper-specialized society? And the number one reason for this is, well, laziness. We've become such a lazy society that we rely so much on our manufacturing side, and we want things faster, better, and as much as we can get of it. We actually have stores like Costco that give you stuff in bulk because they need to compensate for our need for quantity. So by raise of hands, who watches these shows? Or watches shows like these and actually like them? Why? Why do you like shows like these? They're shows of people doing their job. Literally, just doing their job. Well, it's because we're so used to seeing something like this, where we see the beginning, the raw materials, and then it magically becomes the product, when we don't know what that magic is. So when we see something like this, and we actually see someone going through from the ground up and seeing everything actually happen, we're kind of intrigued, and it's so foreign to us that it becomes watchable and lovable. And that's why those shows thrive. So this is Matthew B. Crawford, and he wrote 2 books, A Case for Working with Your Hands and A Shop Class as Soulcraft. Now, in a case of working with your hands, he explains how we become an abroad manufacturer, meaning that we get most of our products from China. Even in the book, he says, if you need a deck built or a car fixed, the Chinese are of no help because, well, they are in China. He persuades us to invoke the spirited man inside of us who will learn the instrument rather than consume its music. And in the Shop Class as a Soulcraft, it is a book about manual occupations that are still important in contemporary life, due to our reliance on a large number of material goods. He argues our way of thinking and challenge that work and fulfillment have to be separated when they can really work hand in hand. Because some people work for money to be able to do activities they love. No. So actually I agree with both of these books because they explain how reliant we've become on manufactured goods, and that work doesn't have to just be work. It can be fun, it can be something that you love. It just depends on what you love. So I actually want to know what it was like to build my own items. So in fact, I built a guitar case, and I really want to talk about because the hard parts, the best parts, and really just what I thought about the overall experience. So basically, this project took about 26 hours over the course of 5 days. The hardest parts for me, honestly, were pulling apart the palette, sanding it down, and dealing with the imperfections of the wood. I had to deal with a lot of warping on the wood and just kind of like weird bends and quirks and cracks. Pulling apart the palette was really hard because, well, it's meant for really heavy stuff, so it's been really packed into the wood, so yanking out the nails wasn't the most easy task. And sanding it down probably took most of the time because of the imperfections of the wood and because of how rough it was. I had to make sure that it was smooth enough for the guitar. The best parts were sanding, staining, and putting in the foam, and the final touches. The sanding was the best part is because I had to learn to love it because of how long it took. And staining it was actually pretty fun because I'd never actually stained wood before, so it was actually kind of cool to see how fast it was. And putting in the foam, it was really fun because, well, it got everywhere, and it was pretty difficult to deal with. But it was fun to cut it out, make sure all the sizing was correct, and everything else like that. And finally, the final touches because I was finally finished with my project. So I like to reflect on what I did, and after I finished it, I asked myself, would I ever do this again? And immediately I answered yes. And it's because even though it was hard work, it was a challenge, and the challenges are what made it fun. So I actually made the guitar case, and it actually works. Oh, there's an actual guitar in here, so it was really difficult trying to figure out the measurements and everything and make sure that the guitar doesn't break inside of the case. But just proof that I actually made it fit and everything else like that. So now it is true that this kind of activity isn't for everyone, and it's not fun for everybody either. But I incline you to give it a shot, because after all, we're not a generation of quitars. Thank you. Quitars.
You get 0 points. I don't have anything to say. You're still recording.